I'm Luca Giliberti, contributing writer at Gold Derby, joined today by Zach Gilford, who stars as Riley Flynn on Netflix's 7-part miniseries, Midnight Mass. So, Zach, I know this show entered production around July, August of last year, so in the earlier stages of the pandemic. What was it like shooting a show which reflects on life and death and grief, among other things, at a time when many people were ruminating about some of these very same things?
Yeah, it was a very surreal experience. Especially because after so many months of isolation, to then go back and be on a set and get to be around like 100 people a day and to socialize, but do it in a way that actually felt incredibly safe. I mean, our protocols were so above and beyond, not beyond, above and beyond in the sense of like, they made everyone feel super safe. And so you kind of got lost in almost sometimes feeling like you were back to the normal world, except with a mask on when you weren't actually acting. And personally, for the first almost 3 months of the shoot, I was alone in Vancouver while my family was back in Los Angeles, which kind of made me feel a little aimless and depressed. So, the character Riley, who feels very aimless and like he doesn't deserve to live, I kind of had a lot of that going on. And I wasn't directly trying to bring any of it there, but there were times where I'd find myself in a scene and you're like, yeah, I know what it feels like to feel like a piece of shit. So that was like the personal aspect of it. In terms of like what was going on for everyone in the world, not to sound like I don't think about the rest of the world, but you kind of have to get a little lost in the scenes that you're doing and kind of put all the other stuff out of there, because there's also the fact that you're like, man, a lot's going on in the world and we're making a show about vampires, which I know it's more than that, but sometimes you're like, man, I get to go play make-believe while people are struggling to get groceries on their table.
Oh, absolutely. And you've actually done quite a bit of television in your career, but this was your first foray into the, I guess it's called Flaniverse. And Mike Flanagan directed the entire series. How helpful was it to work with a single director on all of your episodes?
Well, that working with a single director on every episode made all the difference. We really were making a 7-hour movie and not 7 hours of television. And we cross-boarded everything. So, we didn't shoot linear. Actually, my second day of shooting was the boat scene at the end of episode 5. Yeah, no, exactly. So that was really fun and intimidating. But he's such an amazing director and he's an amazing writer. And that's pretty cool because a lot of times, there's a lot of times with a script where you just kind of gotta not even finesse it, but getting the words to sound right in your mouth can not be tricky, but it's part of the work. And with him, there really was an ease to it. And probably one of the most fun parts for me was there is a music to his writing and especially his long monologues. And for me, it was resisting that and making it seem more natural, which I felt proud of what I did with it. And he is such a great director that I think he appreciates that. He loves when actors bring something to it that he didn't either put on the page or didn't see coming as the director. And he's just so collaborative in that way and such a joy to work with. So it was pretty cool. And I understand why people want to work with him again and again and again. And I think I understand as a filmmaker for him why you would want to work with people again and again and again that you had a good experience with because you trust your words in their mouth.
Yeah, and I've actually read that your preparation and acting processes differ from those of some of your co-stars, and that you actually really just draw on the script to build your character. And there is indeed so much about Riley's backstory that you can draw on. So how did you use all this information that the scripts provided to ultimately build and find your way into Riley?
Yeah, exactly. I'm a believer if it's not on the page, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I got my sweatshirt. So it's some people that helps, but for my backstory, it was all right there. You know, I know who I was. I was this altar boy who then went off and got like, you know, a little big for his britches in finance in Chicago, and then got in a drunk driving accident and killed someone. So someone on that trajectory, you know, their whole world would be turned upside down, and he is a good person. So it really resonates with him that he did this. He takes responsibility for it. And I think he's stuck in that way. I always thought I was a good person. I guess this means I'm not a good person. And how do I handle that? And how do I move forward with that? So again, I think Mike really wrote this character in a way where it was easy to know how he would handle himself in all these situations that we shot.
Yeah, and Riley returns to the island overwhelmed with guilt, as you mentioned, with guilt and with shame and anger and faithlessness, etc., after serving 4 years in prison for a drunk driving crash that killed a young woman. And on top of that, he's also an outsider and someone who doesn't subscribe to the island's faith. So how does he keep his head above water upon his arrival, despite all of these circumstances?
I think just by doing his best. I mean, you know, I think it's kind of, well, I'm not going to just slip my wrist and call it quits. Like, this is where I'm at, and I just have to accept it and move forward with it and see where this goes. I think he just feels very out of options and accepting of his situation and not knowing where it's going to go. And I think he's someone where, you know, there's a scene where, you know, I tell my dad I want to go out on the boat to help. And it's like, well, that's something I can do. You know, like I can't just, what do I have to offer to this world? I'm an extra set of hands on a fishing boat. I guess I'll do that because that's better than just moping in my room.
Oh, it definitely is. And what I really love about this character is that it's the interactions with some of the other people on the island that really bring out all his different layers. And I would actually like to start with his family, because I think his relationships, or dissimilar relationships to his mother and father respectively, are quite fascinating. So could you talk a bit about this family dynamic and how it was creating it with your co-stars?
You know, I felt so lucky to work with these actors. They're incredible. I mean, Kristen Lehman, who played my mom, I mean, sometimes I felt like I was on set with my mom. And not that my mom like talks like that or whatever, but it's just that, like, you're my baby boy. You can do no wrong. Not you can do no wrong, but like, I'll always love you no matter what. And then there's that feeling of like, but why? Like, that shouldn't be enough. Like, I killed someone. Like, and so there's this like resistance to that love, because I don't even feel like I deserve the love of my mother. And then with my father, it's like, he's ashamed of me, as he should be, but you're my dad. Like, can't you give me some, like it's this kind of like, he's getting both ends of the spectrum and neither one of them feel right to him. And I think he's caught in that kind of confusion of not knowing what to do, not feeling worthy of this love, but also feeling like, can't you just love me? And it's, I think we go through that with our parents. You know, I have 2 children, and I completely understand being like, you can do no wrong. I'm not going to quote him right, but I remember reading an interview with Tom Hanks about being a father, and he said something about how he tells his children, or if he had to tell his children something, part of it was, you can never disappoint me. And I thought that was the most profound thing, because as a father, I feel that way. Like you can never disappoint me as long as you're just always trying. So man, where did I go with this? So anyway, and Henry Thomas, who played my father, you know, it just, in these scenes, you felt like you were there. Like, he would just give you a look and a grunt, and you're like, okay, like, I feel like I'm not even allowed to look at you. And then with Kristen, she's so, I love you, you're my baby boy. It's like, mom, like, just back off. Like, and yeah, they were just incredible. And my favorite quote, which I've said before, but when we filmed the scene on the boat, one of our cameramen, after we filmed the scene between me and Henry, said, wow, like, that's the awkward conversation we all wish we could have with our father. Yeah. Which was so true. You know, you don't want to hear your dad say he blames himself for, you know, your mistakes, but at the same time, you do, because it makes you know your father still loves you.
Absolutely. And yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. And of course, we're going to have to mention another relationship, Riley's relationship with Erin, played by Kate Siegel. Talk me through how it was building that relationship between these two characters with Kate, whose process, I'm aware, is completely different from
It's much
yours.
different. Yeah. Again, I thought it was all there on the page. It's weirdly there's a bit of a parallel to the relationship that I had on Friday Night Lights between Matt Saracen and Julie Taylor. And I always jokingly throughout Friday Night Lights would be like, I don't understand why Matt's with her. Like, she treats him like crap. Like, he deserves better.
Yeah.
But what it was they both knew there was more than football in this town. And Riley and Kate, not Kate, Erin, they're the two characters who got out of here. She did it sooner, in high school or right after high school, whenever it was. And he did it after college. But they both were bigger than this place, and they understood there was more to life than this place. And coming back, she's the one person that has experienced the outside world, who has been the black sheep. And so she can sympathize with him in those ways. And because, your first love is just some special thing. And to be thrown 15 years later or whatever back into this kind of like high school feeling thing, but the one person when you were a teenager thought you were going to get married and have a family with and live happily ever after, and now they're here and they still like care about you. I think it would be very easy to fall into trusting that person and being able to let your guard down and enjoy them. And it's not that complicated love of a mother or a father, which is actually much less complicated. But it feels more like, oh, you care about me for me, not because you have to, because I'm your offspring.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that takes us to the much talked about two-hander in episode 4, in which Erin and Riley ruminate about their ideas of death. How much rehearsal did it take to get your monologue and to get this scene all together right?
Well, rehearsal was, we basically sit down on set and we're like, let's hear it out loud one time.
Wow.
And then Mike's like, cool, great. You're going to sit there, you're going to sit there. And then they light it and we shoot it. Which I love because it allows me to kind of just sit there and listen to her and let that affect me, and then let it affect the way I say things. The way I prepare is I just need to know, especially with stuff like that, I just need to know it inside and out. And that just means the words. I don't know what I'm going to do. Because if I'm trying to be like, all right, I know I want to say this line this way and that line that way, it's bullshit. It's just me reciting a monologue I prepared at home. But I would find things in it where it would hit me that like, okay, I had a conversation about this scene with my wife, and she was like, yeah, I don't know. There was part of her that said, given what this woman just went through, and you're just kind of like talking about death and like nihilism, and she's mourning the loss of her child.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't you be more sensitive? I'm like, no, I think it's that I love this person. I know in this moment, all they need out of me is honesty. And even if that honesty might not be exactly what they want to hear, they'd rather hear the truth than what I think will make them feel better. So that's where I came at it. And then throughout that monologue, I remember while shooting it, finding a point where, and then I start talking about, and I'm little microbes eat me up or something, and I'm just dirt. And it hit me, it was like, and then it doesn't matter that I was here. I never killed someone. And it's saying out loud again that I killed someone just hits me and brings me back to feeling like I killed someone. Like, what do I deserve to be here? And that's what he carries with himself all the time. So being lost in this really like intimate moment with Erin, he can't escape the thing that haunts him all the time.
Yeah, it's really such a beautiful scene, and it's really it was very moving. And you also have some very juicy scenes opposite Hamish Linklater, who plays Father Paul, and whom you've actually known for quite a while in real life.
Yeah.
So how was it getting to play off of him and that very specific energy that he brings to those AA scenes in particular?
Dude, Hamish is amazing. I mean, I can't sing his praises enough. As you said, I've known him for a while, and we became pretty close friends in about the year leading up to this project because our kids are the same age and we live very close to each other. When I heard, I didn't even know he was auditioning for it or up for it or whatever. And then when I heard he had the part, I was like, oh my God, like I can't imagine anyone else in this role. I never would have thought of him in the role. And then once I heard it was him, I couldn't imagine anyone else. And I was so excited, and I admire him. Well, I don't want to say I admire him, but I think he's a very good actor. I don't want his head getting too swelled. But I think he's such an amazing actor. And so I kind of knew, like, fuck, man, I got to sit across from Hamish and just sit in two chairs and do this. So, again, I just had to be prepared. And then when I was there, it was like, there was stuff that I didn't know was going to happen. There's parts where I'm sitting across from him and I'm like, you're crazy. Like, you actually believe what you're scary. And that's scary. It's not scary that, like, I mean, it is scary that there's this weird demon or angel or whatever. What's scarier is that you're a psycho. And who knows what you're about to do right now. And I need to get out of here. And then in the earlier scenes before any of that, about religion and stuff, it is that Mike gave me an amazing note, which I didn't grow up very religious, and I'm not very religious. And one of the first scenes I have with Hamish, where it's like outside the crock pot or whatever, and the scene was longer on the page where we kind of debate, he talks about how he loves Easter because of the religious reasons, and I say how it's like a pagan holiday. I think that most of this didn't end up in, but I was a little confrontational just because I was like, oh, this priest, like, whatever. And Mike was like, as someone who grew up as an altar boy and then left the church, there's always this like respect I have for, priests. I just can't help it. Like, it's just always there. And he was like, so this is like just a friendly debate. It's just a conversation. And you're not trying to win the debate. You're just trying to like show this priest the other side of things. And so that, I think it was such a great first scene between the two, because it was like, oh, it made me think more like, instead of always trying to prove this priest wrong, it's like, I'll just have a conversation with him. And the way he reacts to me, it's like, oh, I respect you. Like, we can have our different beliefs, and you're not proselytizing to me, really. You're just trying to tell me your beliefs. And so then I think it helped get into those AA meetings. But then there's the things that just, he'll say certain things about religion that get under Riley's skin, because it's like, no, that's where I call bullshit.
Yeah.
And I've been in that situation so often where I'm trying not to have an argument or a debate with someone. And then you're just like, no, that's not true. Like, you're full of shit. Right. And it just gets so frustrating, because it's like, I think you're a smart guy. I think you're a nice guy, but you cannot believe this. And like, if you really believe that, then that means X, Y, and Z. And that is way messed up. So that's a long answer to, it was really easy to do those scenes with Hamish.
It's such an incredible actor and such a fascinating character. But on a final note, I do, of course, have to ask about the boat scene at the end of episode 5. And you know what? I'm going to keep this one simple. How was it shooting that scene? And what is going through Riley's head emotionally? And how does he get to that point where he says, I'm going to go out this way?
I think Riley felt like that's his only option. I think one of the cool things about Riley is he gets it. Mm-hmm. Like, he's very, I think from his lack of faith, he's very accepting of the world and knows, okay, I'm not going to be a vampire and run around and like live in the dark the rest of my life. I'm not buying into it the way Father Paul did. And I can't let this happen to all of these people. So the only chance I have, because if I just go and tell everyone, they're gonna be like, he's crazy. And the only person I believe will be able to do anything about it, or honestly, she probably can't do anything about it, but she is the only person probably sane enough to save herself, is Erin. And in all likelihood, the only person I have a shot at getting through to is Erin. So I'm going to sacrifice myself for her if I save one person, that's better than none. And yeah, I think he's just accepted his fate and wants to, with it, do whatever he can. And it feels like this is the only thing he could possibly do to like have his life, or the end of his life, have some meaning.
Absolutely. It's such again, it's such a devastating scene and such a, a perfect way to end his arc. And thank you so much for sharing. And Zach, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.